Good morning. This is Northern Light for Friday, April 7th. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe.
Almost every issue ever printed of the Adirondack Explorer magazine has included maps drawn by artist Nancy Bernstein. Her maps help tell stories about hikes, paddles, or other adventures in the park. Coming up, she shares her love for art and the outdoors.
Some people tell me they take my maps and they go out in the woods with them. And they use that to get from place to place. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope you bring another map too.
Cornell Cooperative Extension is providing a 24/7 mental health hotline for farmers in New York. They're struggling with a lot of problems that are taking a toll on their mental health. And a lot of farmers are aging and they're stressed about the future of their farms.
Oftentimes it's hard for the senior generation to hand off the baton or the farm, so to speak, to the junior generation and let them take over. So a lot of times the family dynamics can suffer.
And John Warren checks outdoor conditions in the Adirondacks for this holiday weekend. All of that is coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us.
Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by the Depot Theatre, Westport, a professional equity theater in the Adirondacks celebrating its 45th season, depottheatre.org, and by Barstow Subaru, Potsdam, committed to the safety and security of all-wheel drive. Details at barstowsubaru.com. And Mitch Tyke, our station manager, is in to remind us that it's fundraiser week.
It is indeed, and I have to say this is the first morning I have been in the studio to see Todd and Monica do Northern Light from our sparkling new studios, and it is a sight to behold. It is just as wonderful as you would expect it to be listening to them every morning. We get so many comments from people about how they enjoy waking up and getting their day going with Todd Moe and Monica Sandreski, and you know, the reason that you're able to do that is because you have made it possible. You have supported us for more than 55 years. Keep that record going, and here's to a lot more wonderful mornings with Todd and Monica in the future. Call us right now, 877-388-6277. We're well up over $250,000, not just this morning. That would be some kind of record. But we need more support to keep this station as healthy as ever. 877-388-6277 or ncpr.org/give. Support great reporting. Support the in-depth coverage you've come to depend on. Support Morning Edition and Northern Light and everything else that makes NCPR the great place that it is. Take just a moment now, 877-388-6277 or ncpr.org/give. Thank you so much.
This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. An investigation into Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas revealed details about luxury trips Thomas has been treated to, including vacations to the Adirondacks. The reporting was done by ProPublica. It looks into Thomas's relationship to Texas billionaire and Republican megadonor Harlan Crow. Crow owns an Adirondack Great Camp on Upper St. Regis Lake and has hosted Thomas there almost every summer for more than 2 decades. The visits to Camp Top Ridge are part of a bigger trend of Thomas accepting expensive vacations around the world. There's no strict code of ethics for the Supreme Court, though even justices are encouraged to avoid even appearance of impropriety. Crow denies ever trying to influence Justice Thomas on any legal or political issue over their decades-long relationship.
The Akwesasne Mohawk police now believe that the 30-year-old Akwesasne man who went missing last week is connected to the 8 victims whose bodies were recently found in the St. Lawrence River. The man, Casey Oakes, was last seen boarding a boat last Wednesday. He was reported missing last Thursday. A search for Oakes was started, during which police found the 8 bodies. 6 of the deceased were adults and 2 were children. They're believed to have been trying to cross the river to enter the U.S. illegally. A statement on the Akwesasne Police Facebook page says they've suspended their organized search for Oakes, but they're still looking for him as part of their daily operations as the investigation into the 8 deaths continues.
The Glens Falls City School District has chosen a new mascot starting next month. Teams representing Glens Falls schools will officially be known as the Black Bears. This past November, the state education department ordered all school districts that were still using Native American mascots to pick new ones by the end of this school year. Students on the district superintendent's student advisory cabinet collected hundreds of mascot ideas and then gathered votes from community members and students. News 10 ABC said they made the Black Bears announcement this week. The State Board of Education has approved the new mascot, and the district has until 2024-25 school year to replace all the logos.
Farming can be stressful, especially now with inflation pushing up gas and fertilizer prices. The Cornell Cooperative Extension is providing a 24/7 mental health hotline for farmers in New York State. NCPR intern Maya Mackey has more.
Farmers in New York State are struggling with a lot of problems that are taking a toll on their mental health. The pandemic worsened an already difficult financial situation. Plus, Kendra Jansen says that a lot of farmers are aging, and they're stressed about the future of their farms. Jansen is with the Cornell Cooperative Extension.
So I think most of the time we see like succession planning and younger generations trying to work well with older generations. So oftentimes it's hard for the senior generation to hand off the baton or the farm, so to speak, to the junior generation and let them take over. So a lot of times the family dynamics can suffer.
So Extension is providing a free 24-hour mental health hotline specifically for farmers. They send trained consultants to help farmers across New York within 24 hours of calling the hotline. Jansen says they're trying to help farmers in a holistic way. Where most programs target emotional support or financial advice, she says theirs does both. There are challenges, though, to getting the program to work. Jansen says stigma surrounding mental health care prevents many farmers from getting the help that they need.
You know, farmers are used to staying closed up and not talking about their emotions, their feelings. I mean, we've even had consultants meet at other places, a neutral ground, instead of at the farm or at the house, because maybe the farmer does not want anyone to know that they're receiving consulting services or help.
Jansen says they're hiring consultants who grew up on farms and are familiar with the industry, so farmers feel more comfortable talking to them. Extension has trained over 300 people in mental health first aid and suicide prevention. They're also relying on farmers who have already received help to get the word out. Jansen says the hotline has been effective. They received nearly 700 calls in 2022. Maya Mackey, North Country Public Radio.
You can find more news anytime on the front page of our website at ncpr.org. You can also make a gift to North Country Public Radio on this final day of our spring fundraiser. And in with an update is station manager Mitch Tyke.
Thanks so much, Todd. And of course, if you're at ncpr.org, you don't have far to go to make a contribution to help our spring fundraiser be a success. Go to ncpr.org/give, or if you're already there, just click on the Donate Now button. It's fairly prominent this time of year. Take just a moment. If you'd rather talk to somebody, feel free to give us a call. We have folks standing by to talk with you and take your donations. 877-388-6277. Think about all the stories you heard at the first third of Northern Light this morning. Stories from the Adirondacks, stories about the farming community, stories from Glens Falls. Think about the stories you're going to hear in just a few more seconds. I say this a lot when I'm out in the community. There really are not very many organizations of any kind that serve the entire North Country region. Media or otherwise, North Country Public Radio for 55 years has been committed to covering and making community out of this really vast area. If you haven't thought about it in a while, this is the size of Switzerland, and we cover it with a fairly small staff, not small in stature, but small in number. And we do it because you have powered us for all of those years. It does take a lot of money to bring you Northern Light every day, the reporting that you come to depend on, the programs that you come to depend on, whether it's a Morning Edition or 1A or the Beat Authority this afternoon, All Things Considered, Snap Judgment, all the various shows that keep you company each and every day throughout the year, through snowy days, through beautiful sunny days, and just the mostly cloudy days that are often part of North Country life. Take just a moment now and make it possible for another year. Thanks right now to Greg Pedrick and his dog Remy, who say, keep up the good work. You are great for this community. Thanks, Greg and Remy. We want to thank you next. Call 877-388-6277 or go to ncpr.org/give.
You're listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. It's coming up on 12 minutes past 8. Good morning. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Just ahead, we'll take a look at the trail conditions in the Adirondacks this weekend with John Warren. That's in just a few minutes here on Northern Light.
Music by the Buskers out of the Thousand Islands. You can hear more of their music on our website. Visit the Underscore Project at ncpr.org/_. Northern Light is supported by Adirondack Foundation, helping people and families build a legacy of generosity for the Adirondacks, adirondackfoundation.org, and by Cloud Splitter Foundation, acknowledging Crane Valley Horse Rescue Incorporated, dedicated to equine rescue and rehabilitation. More at cmvhr.org.
An energy company called EDF Renewables filed an application with the state last week to build a large solar power plant in Canton. The Rich Road Solar Project would take up about 1,700 acres southwest of the center of town, according to the Watertown Daily Times. The application can be viewed on the state's Office of Renewable Energy siting website, and public comments can be submitted there as well. Already, the comment section is contentious. Those against the project say it would compromise the area's natural beauty and take away wildlife habitat. Those in favor say it's important to build renewable energy sources to fight climate change and accuse opponents of having a not-in-my-backyard mentality. This Rich Road project is just one of several solar projects that have been proposed in the area surrounding Canton.
The Adirondack Park Agency is looking into relocating its office to downtown Saranac Lake. The staff of about 45 people is currently based in Raybrook. It's eyeing the historic Paul Smith's Power and Light building, which now houses the Saranac Lake Village Police Department. In a statement, an APA official said a feasibility study is underway to see if the building meets the agency's needs. Last year's state budget included $29 million for the APA to relocate into the state-of-the-art energy-efficient building. Saranac Lake Mayor Jimmy Williams said in a statement that the village is excited about the potential move.
Landlords in St. Lawrence County are sent into a frenzy over the current nationwide housing crisis. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many people are struggling to find affordable housing, making it tough for landlords to find tenants and make money. To address issues related to housing discrimination and inequality, the St. Lawrence County Fair Housing Task Force is training landlords on inclusive practices. According to CNY Fair Housing Executive Director Sally Santangelo, we're working to make sure people are not denied housing or treated differently because of their race, nationality, disability, or source of income. The task force believes that educating landlords can prevent conflicts between tenants and landlords during these times. If you've ever looked through the Adirondack Explorer magazine, chances are you've seen artwork by Nancy Bernstein. She's been drawing maps for the magazine for 30 years, helping tell stories about hikes, paddles, and other outdoor adventures in the Adirondacks. Bernstein's maps are simple looking, but have all the information you need to orient yourself in the park. Emily Russell brings us the story behind the artist.
Nancy Bernstein is like the perfect kind of Adirondack famous.
A lot of people don't know, who I am, which is fine, but they've seen my maps. And when they do meet me and they're like, oh, you're the one that did that?
Bernstein is in her late 50s, and she's clearly super athletic. Right now, she's wearing blue frame glasses that match her earrings. Bernstein's been drawing maps for the Adirondack Explorer for half her life, sometimes up to 10 maps per issue. I ask her how many she thinks she's drawn over the decades.
Like hundreds? I think more than that. There's a lot of maps, Emily.
All right, so let's focus on the few she's working on right now. The first is for another client, historic Saranac Lake. It's pretty detailed and mostly done. The goal is to show all the hamlets around the village.
Take my tracing paper, I just line it up, where I want it, what I want to catch.
In this case, she's adding the old railroad track. She lays her tracing paper over an official map of the Adirondacks.
Line it up, and then I carefully, and this is where you need good vision. I have all kinds of glasses these days to be able to capture all this, but, then you're just drawing with pencil on my tracing paper.
She slowly traces all the slight curves of the railroad track. Then it's time to imprint that onto her hand-drawn map. To do that, she uses another kind of special paper.
This is a transfer paper. It's kind of like carbon paper, if you remember that from moons ago. When you press on one side, it leaves ink on the other.
So she slides that slate gray transfer paper between her map and the tracing paper, which sits on top. Once all of the map details are transferred over, it's ready for the final touches.
I use these fine nibbed pens, micron pens, and I use watercolors, and sometimes I add little illustrations to my maps.
She draws tiny little fire towers and lean-tos. Mostly, though, Bernstein's maps are pretty simple, clean-looking. Rivers and streams are in blue, text is in black. They're not super detailed, but they're distinct. And they reflect the kind of art Bernstein has always felt most comfortable with.
I never saw myself as a fine artist because I didn't think I had that creative sense to create something totally new.
As a kid, Bernstein was drawn more towards what was real, what was right in front of her, plants and animals. She was also drawn to science. So she combined the two and started to pursue natural science illustration.
I was early on in that when I got asked to do this map drawing for the Adirondack Explorer. Dick Beamish asked me, to do the prototype, and it kind of just started me down that path.
Beamish is the founder of the Adirondack Explorer. Bernstein, at the time, was also going down another path, home construction, starting with her own. When she moved to the Adirondacks from the Hudson Valley in her 20s, she bought land with some friends in Vermontville, about 10 miles north of Saranac Lake.
I had no idea how long I'd stay. I was just going to build something to see if I could do it, and then I did okay. It's a nice house.
Bernstein's being humble. It's beautiful, especially the timber frame addition. While she drew maps and illustrations on the side, Bernstein worked in timber frame home construction for 20 years. Her home has sleek wooden lines, lots of light, windows that frame the Adirondacks. What are we looking at?
That's a moose with the slide, and Mackenzie to the right with a little slide on it. I always want to go find that little slide.
Yeah. Bernstein is an avid outdoors woman. When she's not drawing or working her day job, now at the Adirondack North Country Association, chances are Bernstein's in the mountains.
I'm a skier, a hiker, a paddler. I'll jump on my bike. I'll do anything to be outside, depending on what the weather and the ground conditions are good for. I'm all in.
All that time outside ends up going into her art. She's working on a map now for the Adirondack Explorer. It'll be part of a story about a hike some friends took from Long Lake down along the Northville Placid Trail. I hiked the Northville Placid Trail a couple of years ago, so I kind of pictured where I was along the map as I'm drawing and remembering swimming in Tyrrell Pond and camping in a certain spot. So I do like to kind of be in the place where I am. Over her 30-year career, Bernstein has drawn maps not just for the Explorer, but also for the Adirondack Council, for the 90-miler canoe race, for Hornbeck boats. She also does personal commissions.
I've drawn maps for people's weddings, to help the people find where to go. And it's kind of fun where things have ended up, and it's nice to be this not high-profile person that kind of has little imprints all over the place.
So now when you see one of those beautiful hand-drawn maps in the Adirondack Explorer, you'll know a bit more about the artist behind it. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio, Vermontville.
Follow the station throughout the day on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and at our website, ncpr.org. I'm Monica Sandreski, joined now by our station manager, Mitch Tyke, because this is the last day of our spring fundraiser. And Mitch, just listening to Emily's story, the ringing thing to me was just how irreplaceable this sort of storytelling is. I mean, this is such a good example of how NCPR, I sort of think of it, this is not a somewhere station. This isn't a story you could hear just anywhere. This is a story from our community. This is a story of the Adirondacks. This is a somewhere station. It's not anywhere. It's somewhere right here at North Country Public Radio.
And the great thing about Nancy, the person we just profiled, is, she's one of those people out there that you might not necessarily run into, but you know her work. And she's one of the people out there that makes life here just a little bit better. And there's a great parallel to what we do here. You might not necessarily know us if you run into us in Stewart's, for example, but hopefully you know our work because you're listening to us right now. And the reason we're able to make a difference in the life of the North Country is you, because you have contributed over the years to North Country Public Radio's success. If you are already a donor, this is the time to renew your membership. Take just a moment now, or if you've never given before, there's not an entry level. You can give whatever you feel comfortable with. Maybe you can give $10. Maybe you can give $10 a month. Maybe you can give $5 a month. Maybe you are someone who can afford $1,000 a year or a $365 day sponsorship level. There are all sorts of ways to get involved. The important thing is take that step right now, just like Andrew Gerlitz in Peru, Lorna Burley in Messina, Casey Stewart in Morrisonville, Susan Smith in Philadelphia. They've all contributed, as I was about to say, to North Country Public Radio this morning. Take just a moment, support NCPR at ncpr.org/give or 877-388-6277. Support Northern Light and all the shows you depend on. 877-388-6277 or ncpr.org/give. And thank you so much.
You're listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up in just a minute, John Warren checks the trail conditions in the Adirondacks for us. Then stick around after the show for Bird Note, how the small quail, the northern bobwhite, spends springtime. That's coming up at 8:42. But first, Todd has a look at the weather for us.
Just glanced out the window here in Canton. There are some big billowing clouds, but the Weather Service says partly sunny. Highs today in the 40s. Winds out of the west, 5 to 15 miles per hour. Sunshine tomorrow and Sunday and Monday, and it is going to warm up into the 60s early next week. We'll see highs tomorrow again. Low 40s, mid to upper 40s in places like Glens Falls and Saratoga Springs. Sunshine tomorrow, Sunday, sunshine. Highs in the 50s on Sunday and a high near 60 on Monday. Could see a high in the low 70s Wednesday and Thursday of next week. That's according to the Weather Service. Right now it's 36 degrees here in Canton, but for a better look at outdoor trail conditions in the Adirondacks for this weekend, here's John Warren.
We've got a couple of cool but mostly sunny days in store before an expected warm-up next week into the 60s. Nighttime temperatures are going to be well below freezing this weekend, however, and we still have winter conditions around most of the Adirondacks. There remains 1 to 2 feet of snow in the central Adirondacks at lower elevations, although it's become quite patchy, especially on southern exposures up to about 2,000 feet. There is 3.5 feet of snow at Lake Colton and 4 feet or more at the highest elevations. It will be quite windy today with gusts to 30 miles per hour and winds 30 to 40 miles per hour on the highest summits, where temperatures are expected to remain in the teens today and Saturday. Summit temperatures on Sunday are expected to remain in the 20s, and wind chills on summits will be in the teens below zero today, rising to the teens above zero on Sunday. Most of the popular backcountry ski routes remain skiable in the central Adirondacks, but expect thin and fast conditions in the morning and softer snow in the afternoon. The Cascade Welcome Center has closed, but there remains skiing at Mount Van Hovenberg and at Paul Smith's. Dewey is done for the season. Lapland Lake is now closed, and this will be the last weekend for Garnet Hill near North Creek. Gore and Whiteface still have plenty of downhill terrain open for this weekend. Oak Mountain is closed, but Macaulay may open for one last weekend, but call ahead there. Snowmobiling has ended for the season, and the gates have closed or are closing on most of the seasonal roads for mud season. One concern this weekend is going to be water levels, which are above normal for this time of year and high in the high peaks. Low water routes are going to be impassable this weekend. Be prepared with alternative plans if you are making stream crossings. Lower water in the morning may give way to impassable water levels by afternoon. And finally this week, a fire weather watch has been issued for today for most of the southern and eastern Adirondacks. Low humidity and gusty winds will allow any fires that start to spread quickly. The burn ban remains in effect, but it would be a good idea to avoid campfires as well today if you are in an area without snow cover. Those are the outdoor conditions in the Adirondacks this weekend. For North Country Public Radio, this is John Warren from the New York Almanac. Online at newyorkalmanac.com.
Coming up on 28 minutes past 8, you're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio, supported by Adirondack Foundation, helping people and families build a legacy of generosity for the Adirondacks, adirondackfoundation.org. And on this last morning of our spring fundraiser here at NCPR, Monica Sandreski and Mitch Teich, good morning, both of you.
Good morning. Yes, this is our last day of the spring fundraiser, and we still have about $52,000 left to raise. But it is possible when all of us come together and give what we can, when we contribute and say, this station matters. We need to keep this strong. This matters to me. This matters to my neighbors. It matters to my family, and it matters for the next generation. I want to support it now at ncpr.org/give. This is always NCPR, and it's been strong for 55 years because people have come before you and said, this matters to me. This programming matters. These conversations matter. This sort of newsroom matters to me, and I want to keep it going. Now they're handing the baton to you and counting on you to take it and call 877-388-6277 and give whatever amount you can, whether it's $10 a month or $15 a month. Whatever works for you works for NCPR. Just do it now online at ncpr.org/give.
Well, I feel like I can't add anything to that, so I will just say thanks so much to Elizabeth Schulte and John Cottam in Loon Lake, who say they love NCPR and especially Northern Lights and String Fever. Northern Light, singular, I guess that would be. Sheena McDonald, who says, I feel fortunate to be able to receive this station in Kingston, Ontario. We feel fortunate that we're able to reach you in Kingston, Ontario. We'd love to hear from more Kingstonians. We'd love to hear from you in Alexandria Bay, in Ogdensburg this morning, in Watertown and Rodman, in North Creek and Old Forge. We'd love to hear from you in Glens Falls and Lake George. We'd love to hear from you in Burlington and Middlebury. We'd love to hear from you in Plattsburgh and Malone, or Canton and Potsdam. Take a moment now. Go to ncpr.org/give or 877-388-6277.